Caleb did not plan to become best friends with cement. In school, he studied geology. He drew neat maps with blue rivers and brown rocks. He dreamt of safety helmets with company logos and air-conditioned buses that carried geologists to oil fields. But what he experienced in reality was far different from what he dreamt about. So every morning, before the sun fully opened its eyes, he used a nose mask, rubbed shea butter on his cracked knuckles, and joined other men at the junction. A small truck would arrive shouting, "New sights! Ewele!" They climbed in like bags of rice and bounced away. By the time they reached the construction site, the sun was awake and hot like pepper. "Wheelbarrow," the foreman backed. Caleb bent, lifted and pushed. The wheelbarrow squeaked like an old choir mistress. Cement dust rose around him like harmattan. His designer slippers bought in traffic for 2,500 naira changed color from black to grey in 10 minutes. He hated it, not because the work was bad, but because he felt small. He was a graduate for heaven's sake, and he had submitted CVs to countless firms, but several weeks and months passed. No call, no email, and no dear Caleb SMS. And we all know that hunger does not respect certificates. It will only ask you, "What will you eat today?" So Caleb walked. At break time, the men gathered under a tiny shade that could not shade a chicken. They chewed gala and drank pure water like medicine. His phone vibrated. He pulled it out hopeful. Maybe a company, or maybe it's a good news, but as he checked it, it was a broadcast message that read, "Type amen 3 times and your helper will locate you." Immediately, he hissed and blocked the person that sent it out of annoyance. In the evening after work, he went to the market to buy a few things, and on the way, he met people who knew him from school days. Caleb, have fun now. Long time no see. Where do you work now?" they asked, not because they cared, but because they wanted to measure his life. Caleb's mouth changed shape immediately, and he put on his packaging mode. "I am in feed projects," he replied, dusting his shirt like a film star. "Oh, wow! Which company?" He coughed, looked away, and threw English like comforting. "It is this CS new company in town. We handle structural coordination and on-site quality assessment, mostly supervision." They nodded. Although they did not understand, but it sounded big. Caleb started walking away fast before they asked more questions that would implicate him. One Saturday, he sat at home with his best friend in Mega. "Bro, this your packaging filling Oscar," Emeka teased. Caleb rolled his eyes. "You want me to tell them I carry blocks? Or do you want me to say, 'Hi, I am Caleb, Mr. Wheelbarrow'? I beg you." Emeka shook his head. "How about now? You don't need to be ashamed of your hustle." Caleb did not answer. He remembered his class picture in final year. He used to think the world was waiting for him at the gate with balloons, but here it was giving him only lemonade. Monday came faster than usual, and at the site, the foreman shouted more than usual. A truck of blocks arrived, and it was expected that Caleb should do justice to them. He kept on pushing, lifted and breathing dust. Then from the corner of his eye, he saw a bright dress at the far end of the road. He looked up and his heart jumped like frog. He saw Anita, the fine girl he once met at a friend's birthday party. He told her he is a geologist and was into project coordination. They had exchanged numbers and they've been chatting since then. Anita was walking straight towards the site with her friend, carrying shopping bags and laughing like the world was soft bread. Caleb immediately dropped the block in his hands. It landed on his foot. He swallowed the shout and smiled like pain was a joke. He scanned the site. No hidden place at all, and the other people working on the site may even implicate him. He had just one option, which was the small bush behind the pile of sharp sand. He moved very fast. "Caleb, where you dey go?" a worker asked. "To your teeth, Aproko," he muttered, still moving. He slipped behind the sand and entered the bush. The grass scratched his legs like wicked aunties. Ants heard a quick meeting on his ankle. He crushed, holding his breath and praying in short sentences. Father Lord, please let her pass like breeze. I will never lie again. I will only speak the truth. Just help me now. Voices floated near. The ladies were close. He heard them giggle. Caleb almost fainted. He pressed his face into the leaves and made it stretched like rubber band. Finally, their footsteps faded. He still waited an extra 5 minutes just for them to go very, very far. Then he crept out, brushed grass from his body and tried to look normal. His normal failed. The men at the site were already laughing and one of them said, "You better accept this life the way it is." Shame tapped Caleb like a drum and in his mind he was like, "I don't blame you people at all. My condition really make crayfish bend." That night, he laid on his thin mattress crying. He pulled out his phone again. No job email. Then he looked up and whispered, "I am a graduate of geology and I carry blocks. God, you self-check am now. It's not fair. Look into my matter and upgrade me, Ejo." The next morning, he woke up with cement still hiding inside his nose. He sneezed and a puff of dust flew out like smoke from a faulty generator. He groaned, sat up and looked at his palms that were now as hard as Zuma rock. This was not the life he dreamt of when he wore a suit to convocation and threw his cap in the air. After a quick bath with cold water that shocked his bones awake, he ironed his shirts. He refused to go to the site that day. Instead, he went out again to scatter CV like rice at a wedding. He folded them neatly into a brown envelope that was already bending from overuse. He whispered a prayer. "God, please, just 1 yes today. I am tired of hearing, 'We will get back to you.' Just 1 yes." He trekked from one company to another, sweating like a Christmas goat. Sometimes the receptionist would smile politely and collect the CV. Other times they looked at him like he was disturbing their peace. By afternoon, his legs were heavy and his envelope was lighter. Still, no promise and no yes. By evening, he dragged himself to the construction site. The foreman frowned. "What happened?" "Sorry, sir," Caleb said, quickly grabbing a shovel. He shoveled sand as if his life depended on it, because in truth, he did. One of the men teased him again. "Oga Geology, this one you dressed neat today. Abeg, analyze the sand for us." The others laughed, slapping each other's backs. Caleb smiled, pretending it was funny, but inside his pride twisted like rope. That night, when he returned to his small room, he chuckled weakly. "This humiliation is enough for me to stay off that site, but Holga will just finish me without my permission, so let me just manage until Baba God remembers me." He should have learnt his lesson after the bush disgrace, but his pride was like a stubborn goat that refuses to stay tied. Deep inside, he still believed packaging was necessary. How can I tell people I carry blocks, No, I won't try that. I will simply fake it till I make it. It is called packaging. The next day at the site, the men were sweating and their singlets were soaked like forgotten rags. Caleb had just finished pushing a stubborn wheelbarrow filled with sand when he looked up and froze. There she was, not Anita this time, but another lady he had once charmed with field supervision English. Her name was Sandra, and she was walking down the street swinging her bag like she owned the road. She was the type that liked fine boys with fine stories, and Caleb had given her plenty of it. His blood ran cold. Not again. But instead of running into the bush like the last time, his eyes fell on the corner of the site and he saw a yellow reflective jacket and a helmet lying carelessly on a cement bag. Without thinking, he grabbed them, dusted them quickly and threw them on. He adjusted the helmet until it almost covered half of his face. Then he puffed out his chest, put his hand in his pockets and began backing orders like a true ogre. "You! Move that wheelbarrow there. Hey you! I Align those blocks properly. Quick, quick. This is not children's playground. The workers stared at him in confusion. Some almost dropped their tools from laughter, but Caleb didn't care. He stood tall, pointing at random piles of sand, acting like he was inspecting. Sandra drew closer, squinting at him. "Caleb, is that you?" she asked. He cleared his throat and deepened his voice. "Oh yes, it is me. I am just overseeing operations. Quality control and safety checks." Sandra blinked. "Wow, so this is your site?" "Yes, one of many," he lied, waving his hand like he owned half of Lagos. "We are currently handling structural adjustments here." Behind him, a worker muttered loudly, "Structural adjustments, my foot. Maybe yesterday you nearly fall inside soakaway." The others burst into laughter, struggling to hide it. Caleb shot them a deadly look, then quickly turned back to Sandra with a plastic smile. "Work is stressful, but we thank God." Sandra nodded impressed, and after a few minutes of small talk, she left. The moment she disappeared, the entire site exploded with noise. Caleb, the site engineer, project manager of borrowed jackets, Oga constructor and manager of Fake Life Limited. Caleb removed the helmet and jacket in shame. His eyes were burning, but in his heart, he congratulated himself. He didn't know that his day of true exposure was crawling closer, and this time, no helmets, no jacket, and no bush would save him. That day of shame came, and it started like every other day. Caleb rubbed shea butter on his cracked knuckles and joined the truck to the site, but fate had arranged something special for him that day. He was bending to lift a stubborn block when he heard a familiar voice. Sweet, smooth, and confident. His heart skipped. He looked up slowly and his soul almost left his body. Standing before him was Anita. Oh yes, the same Anita. This time in full glory. She wasn't alone. Two of her friends were with her, all dressed in bright Ankara, looking like they were heading to a party. Caleb froze with his hands still gripping the block. He blinked once. He blinked twice, thinking he was dreaming. But no, Anita's eyes were locked on him, wide with shock and then narrowing with fire. "Caleb!" she shouted loud enough for even the ants in the foundation to hear. "So, carrying blocks like a liberal is your field project and your structural coordination?" The whole site went silent. Workers stopped to watch the drama. Caleb opened his mouth, but no words came. He felt like his tongue had resigned. Anita dropped her shopping bag and clapped her hands together. The claps echoed like gunshots. Caleb, you lied to me that you were managing projects. See you here managing blocks." Her voice rose with every word. The workers were trying not to laugh, but their shoulders were shaking. One couldn't hold it anymore. He burst out. "Lucky big boy." The whole site exploded with laughter. Caleb wished the ground would open and swallow him. He even looked at the foundation pit, considering jumping inside, but Anita wasn't done. She stepped closer, her friends nodding like backup singers. "You see you alive? Even devil, the father of all liars, is still learning where you are. So, Oga, just give me one reason you have been lying to me, and let me even ask you, how do you sleep knowing fully well that you have told people what and who you are not? Till I leave this planet Earth, if you tell me you are coming, I will believe that you are going." That question hit him like a hammer on a nail, and each insult was another block added to the load already on his back. The workers were in tears from laughing. Even passersby stopped on the road to watch the free Nollywood scene. Caleb forced out a whisper. "Anita, please calm down." "Yes, sir. I am calm, chief of lies." By now, Caleb could not feel his legs. He dropped the block and sat on it like a defeated king. His pride was scattered on the ground, mixed with sand and sweat. The foreman shook his head slowly, muttering, "My lies, they disgrace and destroy man, no be legit hustle." Anita finally picked up her bags, hissed loudly and walked away with her friends, but her words didn't leave. They floated in the air, circling Caleb like stubborn flies. The laughter at the sight continued long after she left. Caleb buried his face in his dusty arms. And that evening, when he staggered back to his small room, the shame was still fresh. He laid on his mattress, and every word Anita said replayed in his head, louder and louder like horn speakers at a political rally. That night, he could not sleep. It was as if her words had entered his bloodstream. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her clapping, her friends laughing, and the dramatic workers laughing at him too. "Guy," Caleb whispered to himself, "see your life. You have turned to a laughing stock all because you know if you just talk true." He sat up, grabbed his phone and strolled through his WhatsApp. His last chat with Anita was still there. From Anita, "Good night, project coordinator. You are really doing well for yourself." And then him, "Good night, dear. I am handling a big project and it's very stressful." He sighed deeply. Big projects indeed. He opened his Facebook. His last post was a picture of him in the bold reflective jacket, captioned, "Another milestone achieved." Who am I even deceiving, he asked, and then he deleted it. The next day, he went back to the construction site because he had no option. He walked silently and some workers teased him again, but he didn't answer. At break time, one older Maxine named Babasheyi patted him on the shoulder. "My boy," he said, "carrying blocks to earn legitimately does not reduce you as a person. It is telling lies that does that. Carry your hustle with pride. It is the same money I earned from doing this job that I used to train my children through the university." Caleb looked at the man's record but proud face and felt small. He realized the truth. It wasn't the job that was shameful, it was the fear of being judged. That night, back on his mattress, he whispered to himself, "From today, no more packaging. I will tell them I am a graduate of geology and while waiting for a job, I work at a construction site. If they laugh, make them laugh. At least I no go run enter bush again." And for the first time in days, he slept peacefully. The next morning, he woke up lighter, not because the cement load had reduced, but because the heavy lie on his chest was gone. For the first time in a long while, he looked at his reflection in the cracked mirror on the wall and said aloud, "I am Caleb, a graduate of geology, and yes, I carry blocks, but I carry them with dignity." At the site that day, when the workers teased him, he didn't dodge. "Graduates, I beg analyze this sand for us," one of them shouted. Caleb smiled and answered, "Well, scientifically, this sand cannot qualify as an oil deposit, but for modern blocks, it is perfect." The men burst into laughter, but this time it wasn't mockery, it was respect. They clapped and hailed him. Oga geologist, even the foreman who rarely smiled muttered, "At least you know something." The real test came later in the week. Caleb was walking home when he ran into a neighbor, a middle-aged woman known for poking her nose into everybody's business. She adjusted herself and asked the dreaded question, "Caleb, my son, where do you work now?" Normally, this was the right time to cook up one fantastic story, but not today. He stood tall and replied, "I am a graduate of geology, ma. While waiting for a proper job, I work at a construction site." The woman raised her eyebrows. Caleb braced himself for laughter or gossip, but instead she nodded slowly. "Good boy. At least you are not idle like some youth who sit at home waiting for free money. My brother's friend works in an oil servicing company. Bring your CV. Let me give it to him." Caleb's eyes widened. "Ma? Really? Yes, my son. And let me tell you, hustle is hustle. So don't let anyone, I mean anybody, shame you with what you are currently doing. He walked in that evening with his heart racing faster than his legs, and for the first time in his life, honesty was opening a door packaging has kept shut. At the sight too, his new confidence showed. One afternoon while the men were missing cement, a visitor came, a contractor from another company. He chatted with the foreman, then noticed Caleb wiping sweat from his forehead. Young man, are you educated? The contractor asked. Yes, sir, Caleb replied without hesitation. I studied geology. The man raised an eyebrow. Geology? Then what are you doing here? Waiting, sir, because I can't sit idle, Caleb said simply. The contractor nodded impressed. That's rare. Send me your CV. Caleb almost dropped the shovel in shock. He quickly scribbled his number for the man. That night back in the small room, he replayed the moment over and over. His phone was still silent. No email and no call yet, but hope was alive again. He sat on his mattress smiling. So it is true. No work is shameful. It is lies that actually disgrace a man. 1 month later, his new life came faster than he imagined. The two people who had collected his CV delivered opportunities. One was decent and the other was mouth-watering. He didn't even think twice. He chose the one with the higher pay, and from the very first day he resumed, he handled that job like gold. He guided it jealously, knowing how bitter the streets could be. He reported early and carried himself with humility. His bosses noticed and they loved him, which made him to be favored amongst his colleagues. And soon, his skin, his dress code and charisma did the talking. That level has really changed. One evening, as he stepped out of the company's building, he saw Anita. She froze on the sidewalk, clutching her handbag. Caleb stopped for a moment. It was as if life had rolled back the tape for a replay, but this time the scene was different. Her eyes scanned him from head to toe. His fitted shirts, his leather shoes, and his confident steps. Everything about him shouted, I have left that level where you met me. Caleb, she called out, her voice smaller than he remembered. You look different and in a good way. He smiled faintly, saying nothing. She stepped closer, her face soft. I have thought about that day. I am sorry for all the words I said. I was harsh and I judged you wrongly. She paused, her lips trembling. About your proposal? If it still stands, my answer is yes. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Caleb looked at her, still beautiful and still glowing, but behind all this, he remembered the sting of her claps, the shame that burned like fire, and the mocking laughter of the workers. Oh, that day had written itself too deeply on his soul. He exhaled slowly, then spoke in a calm, steady voice. Anita, you shouldn't be asking for forgiveness because I lied to you, and I am sincerely sorry about that. But no, I don't want to spend my life with someone who might use my past against me. Her eyes widened with tears glistering, but Caleb didn't linger. He walked with quiet dignity to the car park, pressed his remote, and the lights of his sleek car blinked back at him. He slid into the driver's seat, shut the door gently, and started the engine. As he drove out, Anita remained rooted on the pavement. Her eyes were moist. Her chest was rising and falling with the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. She lifted her right hand slowly, touched her trembling lips, and whispered to herself, You this mouth, I have always told you never to deprive me of good things. I have warned you to be slow in speech. I have also warned you to allow me think before you throw words, but you failed again. And now, if only I had been gentle that day, if only I had held my tongue, maybe, just maybe today would have ended differently. Right there, she understood that words are arrows. Once released, they can never be taken back. A single day of pride had cost her a future of peace. The same mouth that once clapped him into shame was now the mouth that begged silently for a chance. But life had moved on, and Caleb had moved with it. Some weeks later, Caleb's heart would not let him rest until he went back to look for the elderly Maxine who once patted him on the back at the sight, Mr. Sheyi. He remembered those words clearly. Carrying blocks does not reduce a man. It is telling lies that does that. Those words had stayed with him like a torch in a dark tunnel. So one Saturday afternoon, he drove to the quiet neighborhood where Mr. Sheyi lived. The sight of his neat car rolling into the compound drew curious eyes, but when Mr. Sheyi stepped out and saw him, his face lit up like the morning sun. "My son Caleb," he exclaimed, embracing him warmly. Caleb smiled, his voice thick with emotion. "Sir, I came to thank you. The words you spoke to me that day gave me courage. They helped me find my way, and I can never forget." He handed Mr. Sheyi a well-filled envelope. The old man's eyes watered, and at first he tried to push it back. Caleb insisted, pressing it into his hands. "Please take it, sir. You are part of my story." Mr. Sheyi finally accepted, and his voice trembled with gratitude. "God bless you, my son. But let me also tell you my own good news. I have stopped working at any site. My children are now employed in good firms, and every month they send me more than I could have ever earned in 6 months of labor. God has been faithful." Caleb's eyes widened with joy. "That is wonderful, sir. You deserve it. I am so grateful to God." The old man nodded, then grew serious, his tone firm with wisdom. "Caleb, my son, you still have a long way to go in life. Never you be ashamed of anything that gives you food, because that work keeps you from begging, and begging strips a man of dignity in the society. If those who do illegal things can display themselves boldly everywhere, then you that is doing what is honest and legal should carry your work proudly, no matter how it looks to the world. My son, life is a journey, and it is also a process. When God finally takes you to a higher place, it is your experience that will make your story beautiful, just as you have a beautiful story today. Without those blocks, you will not value this office job, and without that cement dust, you will not truly appreciate the fragrance you wear today." Caleb bowed his head, moved to tears. "Sir, you have spoken wisdom again that I will never forget." Mr. Sheyi chuckled softly and patted his shoulder once more. "Go and shine, Caleb, and always remember in this your new job that truth and hard work are never wasted." Caleb drove away from the compound that evening with a full heart, carrying not just his success but also the wisdom of a man who had walked the same paths before. He realized then that struggles are not crosses, they are chapters, and sometimes it is the hardest chapter that make the ending of a man's story the most inspiring. So I ask you, my dear Karma tribe, why do people lie about their hustles or jobs? Is it pride? Is it the fear of what others will say? Or is it because society makes them feel that some jobs are too small? And have you ever caught someone lying to you like Caleb? Kindly share with me in the comments, and don't forget to give the story a thumbs up, share it to your loved ones, and subscribe to this channel if you have not already done so. And until I bring the next interesting story your way, it is a goodbye from here, and God bless you.